What's up, guys? It's another video. Holy shit. I'm actually recording something, and for good reason. Um, this dropped while I was working. And what this is filing some news on World of Warcraft Classic. It was like 9 months, I think, right? Because it was announced in November, so part of November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. So not 9 months, almost 8 months, I would say. 8 months before we got anything about it, just that, oh, vanilla's vanilla. That's all we got. So now we have actually concrete posts from Blizzard talking about it, which comes after apparently one of the worst Q&As for Battle for Azeroth like ever, right? So I didn't see it because again I was working, but I just overheard that it was kind of bad. To be fair, a lot of Q&As have been bad for Battle for Azeroth, so it's kind of expected to be bad regardless. But anyways, this is about Classic. Let's get on with reading a little bit of it and just getting my opinion on it. I've been told what the TDLR is for it, or TLDR. I always say TDLR, but it's TLDR of it. So this part here, well, this the first part. This first part up here, right here, just really talks about like, hey, we're working on it, basically. Which, you know, I would appreciate you working on it if you announce something so big. Uh, so this here, I like their structure. Is how where it started and how they are now, which is always appreciated, especially something like we hadn't hear anything for forever. So having that is great. So over here, they talk about the first prototype, and the main uh, part of this, it's in the first paragraph, is core features like battlegrounds are introduced in patches, blah blah blah, and class designs similarly change over time. After careful consideration, we decided on patch 1.12 Drums of War as our foundation because it represents the most complete version of the classic experience. Okay, that is going to cause a huge rift between the purists, which want 1.1, and the private server peeps that are used to it, and just people that don't give a shit and are like, whatever, we're in Classic. Uh, I, for one, wanted 1.1 and progressed through the patches as it was back then. Did Was that ever going to happen? Obviously not, because we just got confirmation from them that 1.12 is their foundation. Uh, but to be fair, we're talking about a company which years have gone by before November of last year stated, "You don't want this. You give us this. We've been vocal about having this a certain way. At least my side. I'm on the side of 1.1. I'm not a. I mean, I guess I'm a purist, but I can understand within reason. Um, but they just confirmed 1.12 is their essential framework, is what they're going to start with. And they think it's the most complete version. Now, is that an incorrect statement? Not really. And the reason why I don't think it's an incorrect statement is you want to play vanilla at its last form, at its complete form. Of course, it's going to be the last patch. I mean, what was the complete form of Burning Crusade? Patch 2.4.3. What is the most complete patch of Lich King? 3.3.5a. And I guess the reason for complete is everything is available to you, right? And I think that's what they're trying to go for. Is they want everything to be available without having to like make do the effort. Like I guess they don't want to do twice the work to get everything progressively to patches. Like they don't want to release 1.1 and then have to do this entire process again to make it work for the next patch. They don't want to go through the entire hardship of vanilla, right? They have a certain framework set for Azeroth, for Legion. I don't know how they do that. Like, obviously they have an idea. Like, hey, we want to do this throughout the whole expansion, but do they release the entire content all at once, but they don't show it to us? Like, I don't think that's what they do. I think they release patches, obviously, but they definitely do not want to go through the whole process of releasing patch after patch after patch as if it's retail. They just want to give you, here's classic, go nuts. Uh, you do whatever you want. Now, the main problem with that is, as it is complete, as in you can go through 1.12. I mean, next patch is 1.11. 1.12 is just a Battlegrounds patch, basically. Of course, you have all this to your disposal. But there is some changes, big ones. Classes become better. Obviously, the Warlock becomes really good throughout the whole patch system. Paladins get changed throughout the whole patch system. Priests change throughout the whole patch. I mean, Shadow Priests become viable at some point in the middle of these patches for vanilla. All that, this whole experience of your class changing and its identity changing and it becoming better or worse does not happen. You are now at your final form of what vanilla is in your class. So you don't have to go through that hardship. For those casual players, this is fine. For those people that want the full experience as it was back then, exactly 100%, this is not fine for you. You're probably going to have a problem with this. Personally, in my gut, I knew they were going to do this. I knew they were going to do 1.12. I knew it. Did I want to believe it? Did I want to say that's all they're gonna do it? No, because I had a glimmer of hope that they would do a 1.1 and go through each, but that's not the case. I'm kind of rambling around this one topic for far too long, but 1.12 is their framework. The next section, which they call the path forward second prototype, so they've gone through a bunch of work to get another prototype working, which essentially you would think would be better than the initial one, right? So they're talking about what really makes classic. How can we make it as authentic as possible while instituting a framework of WoW in 2018 and beyond, which makes sense, right? You don't want to release classic as if it's a 2004 framework game. Like, I wouldn't release the new Smash Brothers, but code it like it's a GameCube game. That is going to cause problems. You won't code this game as if the mentality, or not the mentality, but as if the technology is from 2004. So they're definitely trying. It says here, after weeks of R&D, experimentation, prototyping, we were confident we could deliver the classic WoW content and gameplay without sacrificing literally millions of hours put in back-end development over the past 13 years. Which, again, this makes sense. I don't think anyone would argue. These guys have experience. You might not like the game, but they have experience in keep maintaining an MMO and learning as the game progresses. You talk to the guys that first, if you can go back in time and let's say you're JL and Brack or whatever, or I'm trying to find a better name, but Brack is in my head for some reason. So you're Brack and you're talking to the guy who joined in the Burning Crusade team, and you talk to Brack now, the JL and Brack now definitely has more experience, can do better things more efficiently than the Brack from back then, because he just had no experience with the WoW MMO. Now he just knows what really to release a better MMO more efficiently. Better MMO in gameplay, that's debatable, but in terms of giving this product out, quickly and efficiently, of course, it would make sense to find a balance between releasing classic WoW without hurting the game, but not it hurting your brain, not it hurting the entire, you're not there for 28 hours, 30 hours a day. Well, it's not even a day, but putting all that work for no reason when the work's already been done for you. So they go into this, I'm going to link this post if you want to read it, because I'm basically just talking about small parts that I think are important of each. If you want to read the entire thing, it's a pretty good post. Honestly, I have no problems with this post. This post does a good job of explaining what's the situation now. Do I agree with some of the stuff? Some no, some yes, but again, that's all opinionated stuff. So there are 3 things they're categorizing in terms of getting the game up to date is table data, file data, and Lua scripts. If you're an add-on developer like Arrow, what's up, buddy? You know Lua scripts can be a bitch to get. If you don't know anything about it, it's very difficult to understand it if you just don't know anything about scripting. Um, and table data that go into this, basically an example would be like how many hit points a creature has, strength an item has, stuff like that. File data, which essentially is just like the world. And then over here, it's pretty good how the game, when it first launched, how they were engineering this kind of data and how they would do it now. As you can see, table name has changed significantly through the game's development because WoW is still a developing game. Just patches and expansions come through, but it's still a developing game. They're trying to release the best version of an MMO possible without it hurting, years of experience. This is a great example. In this form, there is much less wasted space, and spells are no longer limited to 3 effects. So you can tell that they're trying to really apply what they've learned 13 years of experience making it, but applying it to Classic, which again, I'm all for. I'm all for if you're gonna make the game run amazing, but without sacrificing gameplay. Don't fuck with the gameplay, but you want to make it run, 2018, like 2019, like ultra wide shit. Go nuts. And then the looking ahead essentially is just like, thanks for reading this post. We're gonna show you more stuff in the future, which I'm expecting BlizzCon this year gonna be heavily on Classic. I'm talking about the entire WoW thing should be about Classic. I don't think BFA is gonna get a lick of anything because BFA is gonna be out in everyone's hands in August. So that's August, September, October, and then November. So that's 4 months of an expansion. We're talking about maybe we're in patch 8.1 at that point, maybe 8.2. Depending on how fast it releases patches. But I'm expecting full on that the WoW panel stuff is going to be about Classic instead of it being strictly about BFA this time around, which makes sense. Now, my opinions on this entire post, once again, I think this is a fantastic post. You guys should go read this post. Really analyze this post really well. Reread it like 20,000 times if you have to understand what's going on. Because if you just read it, and you go up here and you go, what the fuck, 1.12, fuck this guy, then you're just, you're an idiot, right? You might, again, you are absolutely in your right to disagree with the decision making. No one's telling you, I'm not going to tell you that your opinions are wrong. Your opinions are your opinions. I can't change that. I can only give you my opinion, and if you agree with it, fantastic. If you don't, let's agree to disagree. I'm not insulting your intelligence or your well-being. But you need to read this because they go through some really intensive shit in this post. Like this whole section with how engineering has changed and going through the process of how this is how when we started and this is like halfway of development in maybe Wrath, Mist era, and this is how we think about it now. That's amazing. Like I didn't expect this post to come out at all. Not to mention Golden Step. So this post for me, for being in depth this way, I think gets a 10 out of 10 just for being what it is. I don't agree with the 1.12 decision because, like I said before, a lot of the classes are already in their final form. A lot of stuff becomes really easy. Vanilla as a game was kind of easy in today's standards, to be honest. Like, of course, in 2004, 2005, we had no idea what the fuck we were doing often, right? Which is why there was such a huge gap between the 1%, the 1% and everybody else, because those guys got the game like that, and then everyone else kind of just stayed at their level. We're in 2018, we have the resources, private servers, everything, so everyone just got better just because it happens. Here's another example. I'm talking about Smash again. Melee. You look at Melee from 2002, 2000, like the MLG days, and then you watch Melee now, you're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, that's a completely different game, because people just got better. People understood the game more. People are going to definitely plow through the entire game very quickly, especially if 1.12, because everything just kind of becomes easier. There are items that become available that just make shit easier. Like the first raid, multicore becomes a joke in 1.12 if you know what you're doing. Again, this is all based on if you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, if it's your first time playing it, you might have some trouble, which then, again, which separates the 1% from like everybody else. So back on what I was saying before, do I agree on 1.12? No. I would have loved to see a 1.1 go through everything, but I understand where they're coming from. That doesn't mean I'm not going to play it, and I don't think the sky is falling for this game, especially with the way they're talking about this post. They're definitely taking their time, which I appreciate. Don't rush a product. This took way too long to come out, honestly, this post. You should have said something earlier, but maybe they didn't have anything to show earlier, like for real. Like, I don't know. And that's basically it, really. There's really nothing more I can say on this post other than good job, Blizzard, on releasing something after 8 months. Like, don't do that again. Like, maybe like every couple months, do like we're on our third prototype, or this is out, or show us like another thing that you've incorporated what you've learned 13 years of experience into Classic, and how that's gonna improve our gameplay experience without it hurting how it was, right? Because Blizzard wants to give this experience to the people that did not experience it. But I think I gotta find the paragraph here, but there's one where they were like, they made the first prototype or the second one, I forget which section, but they went, oh shit, like none of my graphics cards are being read by it, a bunch of bugs because it's reading like it's expecting hardware from 2004. The hardware's too good to read it. So, of course, fixing that stuff makes sense. No one's gonna be like, you gotta play this on CRTs and like your Model M keyboards and shit because that's how it was. Like, that's retarded. Like, that's really stupid. But anyways, this is a pretty long video. I wanted to get this out there ASAP because this is big. This is just news. Like, any news about Classic is good news to me right now. Whether it be bad what it says, the only bad thing I see about this post is just a decision on 1.12. Everything else, I don't see why would anyone complain about it. But the 1.12 decision is going to cause rifts. I guarantee you people will read the first paragraph of WoW Classic first prototype and then not read it again. Please, I implore you, read the rest of the damn post. Take the time. Read it like over again. I think it's a really good post. 10 out of 10 post, honestly, from the developer side. Do this more, Blizzard, please. If you're watching, which I doubt, but if you watch this entire video, please do this more. I would appreciate it coming from a guy that is a programmer and loves video games and wants to learn the ins and outs of stuff. This stuff is really cool. I'm just going to stop talking because I'm going to keep rambling for another 15 minutes. So I appreciate you guys watching. Of course, sub to me because I want to have more videos out. I stream on Twitch like almost every day now because it's summertime on twitch.tv/Pochilin. I'll have it in the description as well. And if there's anything else that you want to see me talk about or play or whatever, just let me know in the comments or just send me a Twitter message or something. I respond to everything, so just let me know. And I'll see you guys in the next video.